Hey everyone, this is Marco and I'm back with another update. And I've just finished cycle number 5, so that means I only have one more cycle to go after this one. And I have to say, I'm pretty excited more than anything. One of the things I want to talk about in terms of, the treatment is that I've mentioned this before, which is like the cumulative effects of, of chemotherapy. So previously I did talk about it from a physical and physiological aspect of the effects of chemotherapy. But, today I just also wanted to touch on how it's impacting me mentally. I mean, I've talked about the physical aspect before, but, it does have an effect on me psychologically. And I've noticed that the longer, I've been doing this treatment, I've also noticed that it's kind of wearing me down psychologically as well, which is to be expected. It's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just a matter of really managing what's been happening with me in that regard. So talk to my psychologist about this, who's been helping me through this process. And yeah, she did acknowledge, she did agree with me when I told her that it has been sort of taking a toll on me psychologically, which she said is normal, which is good to hear. That anyone who goes through this sort of thing, wear anyone down, anyone going through the situation in the same way or along the same lines as I have been going through. So I mean, I told her that this whole thing feels more and more like a marathon, because I'm 5 cycles into this process, so I only have one more to go, so I'm way past the halfway mark, and it does feel like running a marathon. There's this term, one of the other people I've been talking to, which is Matt from the Blood Cancer and Leukemia New Zealand, so he does do marathons as well. And so he did mention that because he's done marathons in the past, and he talked about this sort of phenomenon, which is hitting a wall. So when you hit a wall in a marathon, you sort of towards the end, usually when you're actually near the finish line, feel this sort of metaphorically you're hitting a wall wherein you feel like it can't go on because you're just so drained, mentally and physically. So kind of what I'm going through now. Sometimes there have been, I've had low points where I feel at this point that I just feel really worn down. It's more than maybe part to do with me crashing, I'm coming off the steroids, and that means that I'm sort of feeling the withdrawal symptoms. So that does, I guess, contribute to the psychological factor that I mentioned. In marathons, when you do hit a wall, you do eventually overcome that wall and you push past it, and then you find that once you've gone past it, that you do sort of get a second wind, actually. So you sort of pick yourself back up, and then it's part of the process where you just have to make a conscious effort to keep going, and eventually your body will catch up. Once you sort of gain your footing again, then you can keep going. That I feel I'm hitting my own version of the wall, just acknowledging that to myself, that it's happening to me. That kind of gives me the leverage, mental leverage, to get back up again. I mean, I used to think about going through chemotherapy riding a bull, or riding a horse, you're in a rodeo, and you just have to get to the motion of things. Sometimes you'll get thrown off and you'll find yourself sprawling in the dirt. So that sort of thing, in the back of my mind when I started this whole process, and I just learned to pick myself back up again. Now my sort of thinking has shifted to looking at it as a marathon, and I'm just trying to pace myself at the moment and trying to just make it through the home stretch, basically. So, that's sort of how I overcame, my wall, and how I got my second wind. And the other things, I guess, physically, emotionally or mentally, is I'm still dealing with a brain fog, and I think it's more stretched out even more than before. So the other thing is with my blood results, I'm still going through some issues with that, because I'm getting low hemoglobin levels, and that means that I've had to do actually another transfusion at the hospital. I had to stay at the hospital. I've had to get a couple of packs of blood again, just transfused, and I did feel better after, but I just noticed that I needed another transfusion, because I was really weak and I was really pale, and there was a lot of that dizziness again that happened before. That really slowed down, I think, my post-chemo recovery. And the other thing was, so after that transfusion, I did probably like a day or two after, a couple of days after my transfusion, I did get a bit of a fever. I hit 38 a few days after, and then I had to call into the ward at the hospital to let them know what's going on with me. And so they told me to come over. They kept me overnight to give me some antibiotics and make sure that I was okay, because they saw with my blood results that my neutrophils, or my white blood cell count, was literally like 0. So that's really like dangerous actually, to have a fever. When your neutrophils are that low, you could get an infection, or you could even actually, like sent to the ICU, which thankfully didn't happen. I didn't go to the ICU, which is a good thing. They just kept me overnight for observation and gave me some antibiotics, which I kept taking after I left. I took antibiotics for like a few days, but I was okay after that. So basically, when it came to like the treatment, I thought I'd recover as quickly as before, but that was not the case this time. The effects are cumulative, so this time around was a bit harder than the last, to be honest, but wanted to get through it and wanted to get better, and all things considered, I'm okay, even though it took me longer this time around. And I kind of looked at it as more than a marathon, also as an exercise in patience, and also like an exercise in trust, to trust the process, the treatment, that, this is the right treatment for me. And I've had to be patient, not forcing myself to get better right away, because this is a process and things change all the time. I'd say it's a fluid situation, so it does like change a lot from time to time, from moment to moment. So I just have to embrace that and have to be patient with the fact that it will take longer for each cycle. So I've learned just how to accept that. And lastly, I've also had to trust myself and believe in myself, and to keep the faith that, I have what it takes to get through this. And if I did it before, the last cycle, I can do it again now, and I can do it again after my last cycle, which is happening a couple of weeks from now. So moving on to the personal side of things, I was learning about, personal finance and cryptocurrency and Bitcoin and all that stuff. One of the things I did notice this time around, because of the brain fog and the longer recovery, I've had a bit of a challenge with that. There's I've noticed like a bit of a mental resistance, I think, because of the brain fog and the mental fatigue that comes with the chemo. So I've had to slow down on, reading books or watching videos and listening to podcasts. So there's just really a lot of content to keep up with. Even if it was actually my job to do this full time, I still couldn't keep up, because there's just so much stuff out there. It's really, there's just like a lot of content out there that you can't possibly like consume that in a long stretch of time. So I've had to take a break, really pace myself, because, I'm going through this chemo and it's slowing down sort of my thought processes from time to time. So, it is a weird time in my life, and there's a lot of medication and a lot of chemo going through my body, so that does have an effect on my brain as well. I've had to learn to be okay with just, spending maybe 15 minutes at a time on something, or sometimes even, every day, just 15 minutes a day, where I take a break after reading or watching something or listening to something, and I'll just stop. If I do feel like picking up back again later, then I do, but otherwise I'm okay. I'll just do it again tomorrow. I just have to pace myself again and just give myself the time and the space to get through it eventually. And yeah, speaking of which, I also want to talk about what's happening in the future, in terms of the brain stuff. I do have a couple of lumbar punctures coming up a few weeks after my last cycle. So again, they're going to do the lumbar puncture for my spine, for them to get some spinal fluid again, to check to see, just to do a kind of like a biopsy and see if there's anything there, just to make sure there's no lymphoma cells up in my nervous system, and also to do the methotrexate chemo, just to protect me again as a prophylaxis, and make sure that I don't get any sort of like lymphoma into my nervous system, up my brain or my spine. So I am excited about that. I am definitely excited about getting through all of this and getting back to normal, finishing my treatment, get back into my pre-lymphoma routine, you know, before this whole new normal happened to me, and get back to work, catch up with my coworkers and all that. So, but for the meantime, you know, I'm just gonna relax and take it easy, and I just want to, you know, pace myself and really not pressure myself to do any more than I physically or mentally can. I'm happy with that. And yeah, I'm just gonna stay here at home and keep doing my treatments and see my doctors when I have to and all of that, and you know, just enjoy the ride. As far as rides go, I mean, you know, going through cancer isn't exactly a fun ride, but it is a ride nonetheless. Yeah, so that's, you know, just the latest with me. That's what's been going on with me. You know, thank you guys for watching. I do appreciate that you guys are on my channel and watching my videos. And by the way, if you haven't subscribed yet, please do subscribe and hit that notification bell so you do get updates when I do post new videos. You know, I've got more content down the line because I do intend to keep posting stuff even after I've done my treatment. I want to continue sharing my thoughts and sharing my experiences with you post chemo, and you know, post some more like information and give you a lot of resources. Last thing is, if you do have any thoughts to share, you know, please feel free to post your comments below. Do you know someone who's gone through chemotherapy? Maybe you're living with someone like my wife is, you know, she as someone has a partner, me, who's going through chemotherapy. So if you do have someone in your life who is going through this sort of thing, what is it like for you? Please let me know in the comments. I'm sure that the rest of the community will be happy to hear from you as well. You know, we can get a bit of a conversation going in the comments. That's about it for me today. I'll let you know once I've gone through my cycle number 6. For the meantime, I'm just gonna take it easy, guys, and thank you for watching, and I'll see you again in the next video. Bye for now.